How's it going, everyone? My name is SiahZ, and welcome to my budget critical damage Exile build. Now, this build is absolutely insane, running on a 7 divine budget, clearing +4 Arbiter and Zesh with ease, doing juiced T16 breaches, having a ton of fun, great survivability, being able to one-shot all bosses in the game, and overall, on a 7 div budget, you cannot get better than this. Before we get into the video, if you guys do enjoy the build guides and the content that I'm making on my channel, do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help me out a ton, plus it does help with the YouTube algorithm, and currently that is one of the best ways to support me. I should also be live right now streaming the build on YouTube and Twitch. Link for that will also be in the description as well as the comment section of the video. Alright, let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the gear. As for the bow, you can look at all base types, as dual string really doesn't add too much to the build. That should also bring the cost down of buying a bow. When you're looking at bows, make sure you look for one that has really good crit chance and crit damage rolls to it, as this is going to be the most important stat and will add a lot more damage overall to the build. You can look for one that's like 210, 220 phys DPS, and just try, like I said, to get highest roll on that crit damage and crit chance, as you'll see a lot more DPS rather than looking for a higher base physical damage on the bow. Next, for our quiver, we are running a visceral quiver. Again, try to get cold damage if we can roll on this with projectile speed, or you can try to roll that off to increase damage with bow skills. Then just try to look for crit damage and crit chance rolls. Try to get them decently high, but you should be able to get a quiver that's like this with similar rolls, maybe a little bit less, for pretty cheap. And then besides that, anything else rolled on it more beneficial, like Dex or anything else like that, will give us more DPS to the build. As for gear, we're running an expert wicker tiara. Just try to look for high ES, and then again, for the main theme of this is just trying to get good reses and life and stuff like that to keep our resistance capped. So again, for our boots, it's pretty much the same thing, high ES, just trying to get that reses and life rolled on there. And then we're trying to look for 35% of move speed. So this way it just feels good to play the build, and we actually have some increased move speed there. For our body armor, we're running a Wayfarer jacket. You can run that or a wax jacket. Both of them do a evasion and energy shield like hybrid to them. Just try to get one that's decently with ES and energy shield rolled. We are looking for spirit still because we need 190 to run everything in the build. And then just try to look for reses again, just to make sure that we're resistance capped. For our gloves, we're looking for Hands of Wisdom in action. These are really good unique gloves, and they add a lot of overall DPS to the build. You should be able to get these for around 2 divines. Just try to look for ones that are 1 to 10 to lightning damage and 3% increased attack speed, and that'll get you going there. For our accessories, we're running a lunar amulet. Lunar, solar, anything like that that's beneficial works here. Even if you got an amulet that doesn't really add too much to the build, is fine, as long as you're getting and making sure that it has spirit added on it, so we can get to that 190 spirit to run all of our reservation skills. And then obviously, depending on what your reses are, you can try to roll reses to make sure your resistance capped still, or if you're good still and you don't need any more additional reses, that'll even cheapen the amulet price even more. And I do have +2 level to all projectile skills. This will add a lot more DPS overall to the build, but it's not needed, and that can increase the price of it. So if you have to, just roll that modifier off to cheapen it if you're trying to keep the cost of the amulet low. For our rings, we're running 1 unset ring. This will allow us to throw in connectivity, trying to make sure that we roll intelligence on both rings. This way we can get to that required intelligence, which is about 160, 170 to actually run our int requirement threshold gems. And then again, we're just looking for reses to keep res cap. And the same thing on our other ring. Now you do want to look for about 2 to 3 pieces of gear that do have added cold damage to attacks, so we can get some decent cold damage rolled on it to have enough to freeze enemies with lightning arrow, so we can proc Herald of Ice and stuff like that. For our belt, we're running a utility. This is going to allow our flask to have a % of it recovered instantly, which is really nice, and it does help mana sustain when bossing to get the mana up needed to use Exile at the end of our combo. But pretty much anything else on this will be beneficial, like life, chaos res, and stuff like that. Do keep in mind when you're looking for gear, if you can roll chaos res on it, go ahead and grab it, as we do want decently high chaos res into the mappings. This way we don't die from anything chaos damage related. And then obviously just make sure your resistance capped as well. For our back bar, running a Widow Hail crude bow with 270% increased bonuses gained from equipped quiver. This will allow us to get an additional level out of our quiver, and we are running a +2 level to all projectile skills on our quiver. This is the most important stat. Everything else does not matter, because we're only going into this for Bone Storm and having that set on weapon set 2 and all of our other skills on weapon set 1. So this way Bone Storm will get as many levels possible to actually up the physical damage debuff it'll put on the enemy. This way our magnetic salvo can get as much damage as possible, and that enables us to one-shot bosses. The runes on our crude bow do not matter, so don't worry about that. As far as our other runes, we go for critical damage bonus runes on our bow, as it applies to the base and is overall a lot better than physical damage runes. For our gear, we're basically just running chaos runes, this way we can get to that max 75% chaos resistance. If you do need to run a elemental resistance rune like cold resistance here to actually hit resistance cap, then go ahead and do so. That's what I had to do. Now we can get into the skills. So the first thing we're running is Magnetic Salvo. Try to get this at level 20 if you can. Level 19, 20 will work. If you can get like quality on this roll, stuff like that, it's really good. From there, we're running super critical and inevitable critical. This is going to give it a lot more crit chance and crit damage. And since we're stacking crit chance and crit damage, this will add a ton more DPS to the overall skill. And this is our main bossing skill that we use. Then we're running elemental focus to have more weapon elemental damage to it. Hourglass is going to give it 40% more damage. It will add a cooldown to the skill, but we're already one-shotting every pinnacle boss in the game and every boss in the game, so this doesn't really matter, and this just adds so much more DPS to it, so that's why we run it there. Then we are also running Primal Armament on it to get 25% more weapon elemental damage. Now, if you have this to a 5-link, I would just drop Primal Armament off it, and you could run that on a 4-link setup there. For Lightning Arrow, we are running Lasting Shock, as this will have a 100% increased shock duration. Running Conduction, so we have 100% more chance to shock the enemy when we hit them. Lightning Exposure, so this way we can actually inflict it, since this is our main kind of like setup skill once we're going in and doing bosses. So we want to have that exposure and shock on. Then we have Overcharge to have 75% increase in magnitude of shocks once we actually inflict it with Lightning Arrow. And then Martial Tempo to increase the attack speed of the actual skill. Then for Bone Storm, you want to have this highest level possible. If you can get a +1 corrupted one and quality is even better, but it's not needed. We want to get many levels as possible on the skill though, as the physical damage that it inflicts and debuffs on the enemy will be higher, enabling our Magnetic Salvo to do much more damage. From there, we want to run Physical Mastery on it to give another level, Arcane Tempo to have more cast speed, so this way it's not so slow, Life Tap to convert the mana cost to life. Just be wary that you're not using this when a boss or an enemy is about to hit you, because this will probably kill you since it takes so much life per second. But the reason why we use Life Tap on it is because it takes so much mana when we're doing Lightning Arrow and when we're doing our setup and stuff like that. We just don't have any mana to use Bone Storm, so that's why I'd rather pay life with it. It's a lot more consistent. Just be wary that you don't kill yourself in it. Then we do Ricochet, so this way the projectiles that don't hit an enemy have the chance to hit terrain and come back, so this way we get more stacks on a boss to enable more DPS out of Magnetic Salvo. Then we're running Lightning Rod, again, highest levels possible. We're running Concentrated Effect on this to have more area damage. Scatter Shots, this way we have more projectiles on it, so this way we can get to the max 20 Lightning Rods possible, so Magnetic Salvo can do the max amount of damage since Magnetic Salvo targets the Lightning Rods on the ground. Then we run Lightning Penetration, so this way Lightning Rods will penetrate that Lightning Resist, and then Close Combat to have more attack damage on our rods, since we're basically standing right on top of them whenever we go ahead and use Magnetic Salvo and our Lightning Rod combo. For our reservation skills, running Grim Feast. This will enable our energy shield. Basically, when we kill an enemy, we'll pick a remnant up. If we pick enough of these remnants up, we'll get doubled energy shield that we're actually rocking, which is a huge improvement to survivability to the build. Then we are running Clarity. This way we have more increase in mana regeneration rate. Then we get into our Herald, so we're running Herald of Thunder, again highest levels possible for the damage. And then we are running Cold Infusion on it, and the reason for that is Herald of Thunder can't shock, but it can freeze, and then Herald of Ice can't freeze, but it can shock. This way we run the respective basically elements on each other's skill gems, so this way we can go ahead and kind of combo infinite chain them, and that's how we achieve those off-screen clears. Then we're running Ice Bites, this way when we freeze an enemy, it'll get even more cold damage to freeze, so this way when the bolts come down, it has the best chance of proccing Herald of Ice. From there, Glaciation from our freeze build-up, and then Lightning Mastery for another level into the skill. On our Herald of Ice, on the other hand, we are running Lightning Infusion, so this way it'll have lightning damage added to it. Innervate again, so this way, whenever it kills a shocked enemy, it'll actually get more lightning damage to enable it to off-screen clear even better. Magnified Effect have more AoE on the explosions, plus Cold Pen to penetrate whenever we do proc Herald of Ice. Then for Cast on Shock, you want to have this lowest levels possible with a level 13 Eye of Winter, and we're basically running this to inflict critical weakness stacks so we can get more crit chance added to our base, which will enable our Magnetic Salvo to basically have almost a guaranteed crit. So that's why we run Lightning Arrow way to a max Eye of Winters, and then we can go ahead into the other combination and combo for bossing. From there, we'll run our Voltaic Marks. This way it'll free a spot up, but we still get all of that juicy bonuses to like increase chance to shock, you know, more magnitude of shock on the enemy, etc. Then we're running Inspiration on it to have less cost to actually trigger the two skills, with Impetus to have more energy gain, so we trigger both of the skills faster. Then we're running Wind Dancer, again, get this max level with highest quality as possible. This is going to give us 18% more evasion rating, and this will go up higher and scale even more with more levels. So this way we can get a lot more evasion to the build to have a lot better time. If you want to throw supports in here, you can. I just haven't yet. And finally, with our unset ring, we can do another skill, and in that slot, we're running Conductivity. If you can have this highest level and quality, go ahead, as this will reduce the lightning resistance of an enemy even further, and this allows us to just have so much more damage added to that enemy. We're running Heightened Curse on it, so this way it has an increased effect of what it does. Curse the ground, so this way it'll put a kind of AoE on the ground duration, rather than us having to time it on an enemy to actually apply it, which is just a lot easier and allows us to set up when the boss is like coming out of its animation, etc. As far as our clear setup goes for Lightning Arrow, we're basically going to go into this when we're clearing, and then we'll swap back to the setup I just went over a few seconds ago when bossing. We're going to go ahead and throw Primal Armament on Lightning Arrow. We're taking off Lightning Shock, and I just use Bow Shot as like a placeholder to throw our gems into. From there, I'll throw Heft on our Lightning Arrow, throw Ambush on our Lightning Arrow, and then throw Long Shot on our Lightning Arrow. This will give Lightning Arrow a lot more damage, a lot more crit chance against enemies with full life. Now we can do the tree. So for Ascendancy, we're going point blank for much more damage, and since we're basically always close to bosses and stuff like that, it just enables us to have a lot more damage. Endless Munitions, so we can fire additional projectile. Tailwind, so this way we can gain Tailwind stacks when we use a skill, and Tailwind basically just gives us more skill speed, movement speed, evasion rating, stuff like that, so it's very nice. Wind Ward, so we have less damage taken per Tailwind, and at max stacks we have 30% less damage taken for the first hit, which is really nice for survivability. For our passive sheet, we're going into Hone Instincts for that projectile and attack speed increase. Vile Wounds have more damage against enemies that are inflicted with ailments. Then we're going to go into Master Fletching to have much more increased bonuses gained from our quiver. Then we're going to come down and go into Catalyst to have increased elemental damage with attacks. Then we're going to go and grab this Jewel, and I'll get into all of our jewels here soon. Then we're going to Stand and Deliver to have more crit damage plus increased damage against enemies within 2 meters, so it plays well with point blank. From there, we're going Maiming Strike to get that increased attack damage, plus the chance to maim on hit is pretty nice. But then we're going to come down and take Acceleration because we'll get move speed plus skill speed, which again is just overall a nice thing to the build. We're going to come into this bow cluster over here and take Sniper, so this way we have more crit chance against enemies further away, which helps Lightning Arrow clear. Then we're going to take these back to critical damage nodes plus Feathered Fletching, so this way our projectile speed can basically act as increased damage with bow skills. If you don't have projectile speed on your quiver, you can drop these 2 skills. Then we're going to come over and take all of this cluster, basically Heartbreaking, increased critical damage bonus is nice, plus the strength. Heart Stopping for crit chance, plus the intelligence is nice. And then Struck Through will add 1% more crit chance to the base, which is huge. Then we're going to come up and take Coming Calamity, so we get increased cold and lightning damage since we are under the effects of Herald of Ice and Lightning. Then we're going to come up and take basically the full Throat Seeker node. This is going to give 60% increased critical damage bonus. We will reduce our crit chance, so if you have low crit chance, wait to take this, but it just adds so much overall crit damage that it's just too good not to take. From there, we're going to come back and take Escape Velocity, so this way we can head up, take the Jewel Socket, keep going up, and take Falcon Technique for increased attack speed per 15 dex, which has a lot of attack speed to the build. Then we're going to come over and take Enhanced Reflexes, which is increased evasion, plus that increased dex is pretty nice. Then Beastly Skin, which is going to give us 100% increased evasion rating from our body armor, which just gives us a lot of more evasion rating and enables a lot better survivability in the build. From there, we're going to take Kite Runner, just has a lot more projectile speed and damage, plus the movement speed isn't bad. Then we're going to come down and take Harmonic Generator. This is going to give us a lot more increased magnitude of shocks that we inflict with crit hits, and since we're almost always critting with our Lightning Arrow, it's nice. Plus the increased crit chance against shocked enemies really does help Magnetic Salvo basically get to that almost guaranteed crit chance. From there, we're taking True Strike for that increased critical hit chance and the dex, which is pretty nice. For the Jugular, again, just gives us increased crit damage, plus that intelligence allows us to get to that high intelligence for our intelligence threshold gems. Then we're taking Deadly Force, and the nodes up to Deadly Force is going to give us around 70% increased damage if we've dealt a crit recently, which we always are, and the crit chance it gives is really nice as well. From there, we're going to basically just take these 2 nodes, head up and take the Jewel Socket, come back down, take this Jewel Socket, and then we're going to go up and take Spectral Ward, as this will give a lot more energy shield to the build for evasion rating on our body armor, which we're running a hybrid, so we can take full advantage of this. Plus the nodes leading up to it give increased evasion rating and a maximum energy shield, which is nice as well. For the jewels on the build, we're running Emerald Jewels. Look for increased critical hit chance for attacks. If you can roll like projectile damage, attack damage, elemental damage, basically anything that's going to give us more damage with that increased crit chance is going to be more beneficial. I'm running 2 here. I would get to around 32 to 33% chance to crit on your Magnetic Salvo, and then from there just start pumping a lot of crit damage. Like I said, I have 2 emeralds with increased critical hit chance. The rest of them have increased critical damage bonus on them. And then again, I'm just looking for anything else that gives us more damage on top of that increased critical damage bonus it gives. Like I said, from there, that's basically it. That's all the other ones. If you are having mana issues with the build, you can do what I did and grab a Sapphire Jewel and then look for recover % mana on kill, as this will give a lot more mana back while mobbing. You could get mana per enemy killed as well on your gear and jewels, and that should cover that as well. That pretty much wraps it up for the build. I hope you guys did enjoy it. It's a ton of fun. The amount of damage that we're able to do, being able to clear +4 Arbiter, Pinnacle bosses, one-shot pretty much every boss in the game, and all doing this on a 7 div budget is absolutely mind-boggling to me. The build feels really good, a really good amount of survivability, plus the scalability of the build is absolutely insane. I hope you guys did enjoy the build guide, and if you did, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, as it really does help me out a ton, plus it does help with the YouTube algorithm. I should also be live right now streaming the build on YouTube and Twitch. The link for that will be in the description, as well as the comment section of the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, depending when you're watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.